Hey everybody, welcome back to Terrificon. I'm Drew. I have the absolutely wonderful Steve and Samson joining me.
How's it going, everybody? From Retro with Octopus. Well, happy to be here.
And we are absolutely just thrilled to have a total legend here. We have the great, the plaid, the bespectacled, and still extremely polite, Mr. Owen King here. Sir, how are you doing today?
I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm striped, not plaid.
You know what?
What you guys don't know is that we had technical difficulties. We lost a little bit. It was an act of nature.
Yep.
It was like 4 hours of footage,
it
you
was a
guys. It was something like you'll never get to see.
We're going to try to recreate it, but it won't be easy because none of us are natural performers.
No.
Drew.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that yesterday you had the red tie. Today you got the white tie. What's your tie tomorrow?
Oh, no tie tomorrow. No. You know what? And I'm sorry. Maybe I need to get my glasses out of the car because I thought it was plaid, but it is striped. But you know what? I was thinking my wardrobe tomorrow. I'm plaiding it up because I get accused by my long-term girlfriend. Every time she was like, "Why do you always wear the same 7 shirts?" I was like, "Consistency, honey." And she was like, yes, it's called laundry. I'm like, that's fair. It's fair.
I mean, 7 shirts is not a small amount of
No,
shirts.
I know.
I mean, she calls you the platypus, right? I mean, that's what.
Yeah.
That's like your pet name, right? I believe I remember that something.
No, I would say what my nickname is here, but I don't want to get canceled again. So we're just gonna.
It's a family show.
Yeah, it's family. Yeah, it's family-ish. So, my first question, Owen, is I was doing a little research, and I understand that you went to Columbia University. It was like the 90s, like 1999, and you were with a class of stellar people. It was Jennifer Epstein, who wrote like a couple of books, either before or after, right? But the one that blew me away is that you were in class with Scott Snyder, which is, I'm just like, what?
And Scott's one of my dear friends. He was in my wedding. We've been friends, since 1999. And he's an awesome guy. Still remember making friends with him in the very first day of school. And he actually got his start in comic books doing a short story for a collection that I edited called Who Can Save Us Now. Scott wrote a story for that called The 13th Egg, and it was a superhero story set, I think, during the atomic bomb tests. And it's a great story, and it got him noticed by some editors at DC, and then he went and did, or maybe it was Marvel first. Anyways, he did Iron Man Noir, I remember.
Yes.
And then got rolling in that. And I was going to say, the other thing I wanted to tell you about Columbia, though, was it's comic book related, is they were filming the first Spider-Man when we were in grad school.
Oh, my God.
And I still remember seeing William Dafoe in his Rolls Royce, and they were pulled up in front of the Columbia library.
Right.
And in the movie, he's like letting Peter out into the street, or maybe he's letting James Franco out into the street.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
that.
But it's just the little, very narrow causeway that cuts down the middle of the main campus at Columbia. I still could never figure out why that was supposed to be why they chose that as the street. But in the film, you would never know it wasn't a street.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell.
Well, he is something of a scientist. But that was my first. So, Steve, did you have anything you want to ask next, or because I feel like I don't know. Do we go back and forth? I'm not sure, buddy.
I'm enjoying the inside baseball. I love these stories that we could have never.
Well, Columbia, I guess I will say, it's a great program. It's the big, in terms of population, it's sort of the biggest MFA program. There's the most people there. Iowa's more famous, probably. Stanford. But it's one of the really good ones, and we had a great class. We had Hillary Jordan, who wrote Mudbound, that got turned into an Oscar-nominated film.
Right.
Karen Russell was just behind me, and she was nominated for the National Book Award. Karen's awesome. Jennifer Epstein was there, Jessica Shattuck, James Gunn. It was a great couple classes.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
that's
I gotta
cool.
do more in school, man.
You're past the time is past.
I know. But I'm just saying, goddamn.
So, you're here to promote your new comic. You clearly have, dipped your toes into comics for a while, an occasional thing. But you actually do basically every kind of cool thing that there is to do. You've written
I really like to
novels,
shake it up.
comics,
Yeah.
you work with TV, you work in movies, you've done like producing, you've done all this stuff that I think people don't realize. How does that happen? How does this career just become so multifaceted?
Well, I mean, I like to do the novels are sort of a lonely thing that takes like 2, 3, 4 years. And so in between, I have this awful feeling I'm going to sneeze, guys. I got to warn
Yeah,
you.
that's
but
fine.
I'm going to try to hold it
Right
off.
into the mic.
Yeah,
Maybe by saying that, I just backed it off. Okay, so I like to do the books, and then after I finish the books, I try to do some things that are different because it's so intense to write a novel. It's so dense. There's so much that you have to think about, and it's all on you, and it's also like quiet time for
Right.
many years. So I usually do some collaborative stuff in between novels, and in this case, I had an idea that my friend Jesse Kellerman and we had an idea together about the protagonist of Self-Help is like an Uber driver, but his name of his rideshare company that he works for is called Driver with like a umlaut over the R. And when we meet him in the first issue of Self-Help, we know things aren't going well. He's separated from his wife and daughter. He's really strapped for cash, and he spends all his days picking people up who point out to him that he looks just like the famous self-help guru, Darren Hart. And Darren Hart is his self-help theory is this sort of very violent, dominant self-help idea,
Right.
crush your enemies. And it drives Jerry crazy because the Darren Hart persona is guy's such a prick, and he's rich, and he's got it all going for him, and Jerry's got nothing going for him. And so one fateful night, Darren Hart's car breaks down, and he needs a lift to a house in the Hollywood Hills, and it so happens that Jerry's the one that picks him up, and they recognize each other in the rearview mirror, that they look just like each other, and they both start laughing. What are the chances, right? And so they talk, and Darren asks Jerry about his life, and Jerry's like, I got all these problems, and Darren makes some suggestions, and Jerry's got an answer for all of them. He says, no, that won't work, this won't work. And finally Darren says, well, I guess you're fucked. And it's a good reminder because my work is so important, because there's all these shit sack flavored jellos like yourself, getting in the way of people, and people need help, to climb over you. I said something along those lines, and Jerry throws him out of the car, and they're in the dark in the Hollywood Hills, and then he looks in the rearview mirror, and Darren has disappeared. He's fallen over the side of a cliff. So there is Jerry's opportunity to take Darren's life, which he does. But obviously, this is an impulsive decision, not a wise one, because not only does he have to somehow imitate Darren Hart, what he doesn't know is that Darren Hart is up to his neck in all kinds of criminal activities. And so all the things that he's involved in, Jerry now has to contend with, and he ends up getting trapped in this role. So that's the story, and it's sort of a, it's part of that LA noir tradition. We wanted to try to fit ourselves in there and kind of do a Donald Westlake, Raymond Chandler kind of mashup. And we're really proud of it. I think it's a funny comic, and surprising, and a little different, but also not so different that you feel like you're out in outer space or something.
Right. Speaking of something else in terms of work, is I know that that there was a new version of The Stand that came out, and you wrote a different ending. No, you had written like something like a different.
Well, I worked on the show.
Yeah,
I was in the writer's room, but I didn't write a different ending. That was the final episode was written by Ben Cavell, and I can't believe I'm forgetting one of my other boss's names, but then my dad wrote a new ending that was
Okay.
like the back half of the final
Okay,
episode.
I'm
So it
sorry.
was like
Yeah. But you worked on the show, and then like your dad wrote it a different ending to his book.
Yes, for the
Right.
episode 8, like the second half of the episode was his.
And you also worked with your father on Sleeping Beauties, which
Yep.
we did together. So, it's one thing, you're the son of this very well-known writer, and then you're working with him. So, like how
how does that work?
how does that work? Because you guys are both very different writers, but then there are the similarities.
Well,
so.
those two things were really different, right? Because the writers' room for The Stand, I was with a whole bunch of other people.
Right.
Not him, and then we did it, and then they asked him to do that. So he came in later.
Right.
I was, saw the pages and everything, but I
Right.
wasn't really involved in that. Although I'm super proud of the show, I should say.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
very, very proud of the show, and it sits there at the top of like the Paramount Plus page, and I love that people find it and say,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
that was really cool. But with Sleeping Beauties, that had not been something we ever planned to do. I just had this, one sentence pitch to him I gave one night. What if all the women in the world didn't wake up?
Right.
And, it wasn't something I really wanted to do. It was more like, hey, I had this idea, and I never pitch you on things, but I had this idea, and it just sounded like something you would do.
Right.
But we kept talking about it, and we ended up doing it, and that was a different thing. I don't live in the same place. He lives in Maine and Florida. I live in New York. And it was just different to get to spend time with my father as a grown-up.
Right.
Because, you talk to your parents, you might talk to them frequently, but you don't work with them or talk to them every day.
Yeah.
And so that was just a great experience that I'll always treasure for that. I'm super proud of the book that we wrote.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
But, and then in terms of how it worked, we had an outline. We broke that down together. We took turns with the chapters. We would leave spaces for each other in each other's chapters. And so, there was always something of each of us in every chapter. And, we'd also rewrite each other. And so the result is that it feels like a third person who knows us wrote it. So
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Oh no, it's totally. See.
No, I mean that's really cool. So I mean, first of course it was a novel.
Yep.
But it was adapted into a comic, right?
Yeah, it was adapted by Rio Ewers and Alison Sampson.
Absolutely, Rio's a great guy.
For IDW, and they did an awesome job. I think that it in some ways, some of the ways that Rio streamlined some of the ideas, I think is extremely satisfying to see. And to have a writer who I really respect and enjoy take on something that we wrote and, put his stamp on it is really cool. And I love Alison's work. It just has like a very punchy, almost like shocking quality to some of her artwork that's
Right.
really cool.
Right.
And it came out great.
Yeah, I think it came out great too.
Came out great.
I think that I think the book, the comic, just like it's always scary when something goes to a comic, especially if it's an adaptation, not like a sequel or something like that. So I always actually prefer when a comic, if it's a movie,
Yeah.
and then they're going to do a comic adaptation, it ends up being a sequel or something like that, because it's like, all right, we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's an adaptation, it's like the two mediums are so different that a comic book writer doesn't necessarily think about the same things or whatever as a novelist. But like the way that Rio works is he does both, but he's primarily a novelist. So you're able to really trust this really, really established great writer who was
Right.
known for writing thrillers, and he's such a great writer anyway. To be in charge of that comic, I'm sure that must have put your mind at ease.
Yeah, and also when we agreed to do it with IDW, it's like the book is extremely long.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as if we expected them to adapt the whole thing. And to have somebody who can be creative and capture some of the feel of the book while not doing the whole narrative, because that's impossible, was key, and he did a great job.
I think the thing I always say that I look for is the spirit.
Yeah.
If the spirit of the thing is there, because oftentimes when there's a director of a movie of, going to adapt a book into a movie, go a different way, and whenever I hear the dreaded phrase, we're going to put our own spin in it to give somebody, to give the audience something new, something fresh, that is the death of it for me.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Keep the spirit of it. We know that you can't do every little line of dialogue and every smell and every taste and every thought that runs through the character's head. Of course, it's a different medium, but yeah, you have to be careful that you're keeping the spirit there. Totally unrelated. That's what I think they were able to do with the Fantastic Four movie. I don't know if you have an opinion on
I haven't seen
that.
it, but I did. Before we finish up here, I didn't want to waste any more time. What did you guys think of Superman?
I loved Superman and the Fantastic Four, and I am so happy we have a summer full of hopeful, happy, colorful,
Yeah.
positive
Yeah.
superhero movies. And I'm not interested in saying which one's better. I'm so grateful for both of them, honestly.
Drew?
But,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I will say I agree with you on that. Emotionally, I was more invested in Superman, but Fantastic Four was just weird, wacky, fun. And I feel that we are at a good point. I want my weird. I want my fun. I'm tired of dark realism. I just want my characters to embrace that they are fantasy and they are to take us out of whatever reality is. Superman, I might say this, I had just lost my job the day before I said Superman, so I am low. And that movie just brought me up. And I just felt I was like, it's good to see Superman hopeful and optimistic. And I was like, and I said, it was like, we need this right now. We need a reminder that being kind, being human is totally punk rock.
Yeah, I loved it, and I love James Gunn's movies, and one of the things I like about the way that he does the superhero movies is that I can tell he made them.
Yeah.
And when I see the other superhero movies, oftentimes I can't tell who directed them, even if I know who directed them, and so they lack that sort of personal stamp. And there's something a little bit. It's in like the way that Nathan Fillion's hair is done in the movie, and in the way that he talks, or like the way in the that last Guardians of the Galaxy movie, like there were the weird like bouncy balls that were hitting people, or like the way that the little tree guy brought the finger. Like there's like an element of him in it that doesn't. It's a little bit anarchistic.
Yeah.
And I hope that superhero movies continue to lean in that and also continue to not be in a hurry.
No, absolutely. I mean, I remember when he was doing Guardians, he had written a pitch and everything. And I think he showed it to a comic book friend of his. And he was like, this is fine. He was like, and James said, oh, I had written this other thing. I was like, I want to see that other pitch you had written. And he showed him and he was like, I want you to make this.
Right.
You showed me a Marvel movie. What this is a James Gunn Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And I would see that movie. And we had Guardians, and, it is what it is. And, I've been a fan of James since Slither, and speaking of, right. And speaking of Nathan Fillion, I mean, he is just the textbook example of you hire your friends, not just because that I want to make a great movie with people I enjoy, who I will push them and they're going to push me. And when we win, we all win.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love so much about movies, about books, is it's not just you winning, it's your editors, the people who inspired you, your family. They see you thrive, and it's like, good for you. And I'm like, no, good for all of us, because I wouldn't be here if you didn't help me along the way. So I think that's what Superman, Fantastic Four is. You need that support, you need that family, and you need an awesome soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, the awesome soundtrack is definitely key. And that's definitely, I think, one of the main reasons that James Gunn has changed the landscape of movies. I mean, needle drops became such a thing, especially in trailers.
Absolutely.
After, I mean, he didn't invent it, but he sort of reminded us of it and used it in a different way and stuff. I would add to the conversation of director, like superhero movies with a director stamp, because you're right. Especially the Marvel movies, you're right. It's corporate at this point, and I love most of them, but
Right.
Captain America: The First Avenger is a Joe Johnston movie.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah,
Oh man, I
don't know
love
if I've
it.
seen that one.
It's like, yep, Rocketeer guy made this.
No, I really
Totally
like the
did.
first couple Iron Mans, first couple Superman, Spider-Mans. I mean, there's some other ones. The first Ant-Man movie, I think
I
Peyton
love
Reed
that
directed.
one. I love that
I could
one.
feel him a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But the James Gunn ones, really
Probably the most.
feel like very individual and.
It's very, very real. And I had a question because I remember reading something. It's a funny story that happened to your dad. He was in a supermarket, and this woman was calling him out, and she was like, you write these scary stories and everything. Like, why don't you write something nice, like that Shawshank Redemption? And the lady, and he was like, but ma'am, I did write Shawshank Redemption, and she was like, no, and she just walks away. He's like, why are you lying? Walks away, and I was just like, I feel like people see horror stories or things that are scary, and they think that people are like horror writers or that we're just disturbed. I'm like, no, we're normal dudes like you, like dudes and ladies. And like, do you like? How do I say this? We know your father as this writer and everything. You knew him as your dad.
Yeah.
So, like, how do I say this? What was it like seeing that you see the public perception, and if a movie doesn't work, it was like, oh, it's based on this story by Stephen King. Like, how did you kind of handle that?
I know what you're saying, but I mean, I grew up in the 80s and really the 80s, early 90s. This is a really different world.
Right.
It wasn't like something that I would have encountered.
Okay.
In day-to-day life. I grew up in Bangor, Maine, and went to public schools. My dad was not, Stephen King, the famous guy. He was like Stephen King, who like helped with the league, or like, he was just like a regular guy around town.
And that was what I was wondering. I was like, and I'm in my head, I was just laughing at an image. I was like, we see Stephen King and he's writing these things by like candelabra. And I'm like, he was a guy who was reading his kids at one point.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I wonder what books like he read to you guys to go to sleep. And I was like, because I remember it was like, for instance, my dad would always tell me is like the book, The Fish by the Sea was the book that he read to shreds. And he was like, I don't know how many times I read that book. You loved it. So,
I mean, I get that question a lot. And I always feel like people are like, want me to say that he read like the Necronomicon to me.
oh no, I actually, no, I wasn't even thinking that.
It's just the same things that everybody else's parents read.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I actually, I wouldn't even think that you'd read the Necronomicon. I was just wondering, I was like, is it The Cat in the Hat? I was just like, Green Eggs and Ham, read by Stephen King.
Right.
Yeah, because I remember hearing this story purportedly told by you or your brother about how like you guys always had family reading time instead of TV time at the end of the day, and you guys just kind of gathered around and sort of read to each
all the time
other.
as a kid. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that?
I think it's something people should do.
Well,
I agree.
definitely
I always read to my kid, like always for years. My mom always read to me to go to bed. Every single night, I read to my kid every single night for years until she literally didn't want it anymore. Gets to that point. But I would do the voices and do all these things, and I mean,
And it brings us back to Comic-Con and all the people doing cosplay. Like that's
Right.
part of getting into it.
Absolutely.
Just like get into it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny you say that because I remember when I was a substitute teacher, I would get really into it. And I'll never forget this class that I read like the most elaborate version of a Dr. Seuss book. I came back to teach and they applauded. I walked in and there's like kindergartners and the teacher was like, I've never seen that before. And I'm like, well, ma'am, I don't know what kind of job you're doing. Like, you got to read. I think it was Green Eggs and Ham, but I was like going around the room and big extreme gestures because I'm 6'2", and these are kids they're like, oh, this bearded loud giant is our teacher, and I'm like, cool, yeah, exactly. So I think you have to do the voices. You gotta love it. I always hate when I feel like you hear a kid like, all right, I'm gonna read, and you're in 10 minutes. I'm like, did you like speed read through One Fish, Two Fish? I was like, I remember I was reading to my nephew. And I was reading the Batman book, and I'm doing like my Kevin Conroy impression, and his godfather is in the other room, and he was like, "Yo, I thought he had a TV in there. What is going on?" like I'm just doing, I am justice, I am the knight. And he's just like, my man, what, like, you sounded just like him. Yeah, it's like, Kevin? I'm like, no, it's true, thank you. But no, that is fantastic, and I agree with you. We normalize family reading time, everyone. Let's bring that back.
All right.
So, Steve, did you have anything? Yeah.
Well, I just had to say our favorite Seuss was what was I afraid of? And that one's not as known, but it is the horror book. And it's the one with the pail of pale green pants with nobody inside them. Amazing
I
book.
don't know if I remember that one.
Absolutely my favorite one by far. I didn't know of it as a kid, but it's like the horror one. It's the spooky one. And there's just this ghostly pair of lime green pants. And the narrator is just afraid of them. But in the end, he realizes that they're just nice. And it's okay.
Pants are okay.
Yeah, what was I afraid of? It's a great one. It's a great one.
For you guys watching at home, if you ever get the chance, his house is on I-90, his Dr. Seuss Museum.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's his house, but they've got all his stuff.
Right.
Go check it out. Super cool.
Totally. All right, well.
Springfield.
Oh, nice. Well, Owen, thank you so much, man, for this. It was really great. So, for anyone watching, what is the best way that anybody can interact with you? And are you going to any other conventions or anything?
I don't have anything planned right now, but I'm on Instagram. I got a newsletter on Substack. I'm going to keep up.
Well, I assure you, we're all going to look to get some help. So,
all right.
Thank you
Awesome.
very much, man. We
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thanks for having
everybody.
me. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
listening.
everybody, for joining us. See more for Terrificon. Owen King, everybody. Buy his books and avoid green goblins in Columbia.
Yeah.
Excelsior!